Everybody, can you see us? Are we live? Give us a yes. Hello? Anybody there?
Haha!
Yeah, I see ya. Thanks, Kev.
How's it going, wacky?
All right, guys, we're finally live again for another Q&A, another live aquatics Q&A with everyone's favorite host and aquatics expert, this guy.
Yay!
We're here, we're in my basement, we're all set up in our little studio space, and we're feeling real cozy, ready to answer your questions. I'm not gonna answer your questions, I'm just the video guy. He's gonna answer your questions.
Unless they're questions about you.
Yeah, if you have questions about me or video, I'll be happy to do it. Otherwise, direct them to this guy. Okay, so we got people from New Jersey, California, Connecticut,
Wow.
Illinois, Tennessee. That's awesome. That has me real stoked.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us from everywhere, it feels like.
Yeah, so guys, we're gonna start off by saying that we have a very short time frame this evening. Unfortunately, we have 1 hour. We're going until 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, then we got to cut it off. Usually we go a little longer if we can. Tonight we can't do it, unfortunately, so we have 1 hour. So with all that said, we're going to get to it. Our gift card, we are giving away one $50 e-gift card during this live Q&A. We're not going to do it yet. We're going to give it some time. We're going to answer some questions, and we're going to do it maybe around the halfway mark.
Halfway sounds good. I think halfway's a good point.
We'll do it. All right, so that sounds fine. So with that said, we're going to start taking questions. So you guys just type them into the chat. We're going to go in order as they come in. There might be a bit of a delay because we're going to be answering so many questions. You could answer it. Maybe you have to wait a couple minutes. That's fine. But let's start answering some Q's and give some A's.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
What do we got?
All right, so let's see here. Do we have a first one? Okay, so I noticed on your mega build you put Carp in your tank and you didn't pre-rinse the sand. Is there a reason why?
Okay, so Carp gives you a little packet of biomagnet clarifier in all of their substrates. And due to the sheer volume of water versus substrate in that tank, and the fact that I'm using a sump, and I know a lot of that dust isn't really gonna get anywhere, I just use the biomagnet clarifier and it binds anything that's in the tank and it'll just settle to the bottom. I also slow filled the tank, so it didn't really kick anything up. Otherwise, yeah, normally I would pre-rinse sand, but in that instance, just through the course of doing regular gravel washing later on, I pulled all of that smaller, finer particulate matter out of the sand, and it didn't end up clouding anything or getting into pumps just because of that specific setup. But yeah, normally I would pre-rinse, but in that case, I didn't have to.
Awesome. I'm getting a few notes that says the sound is a little spotty. Can you hear us okay? I tested this earlier extensively and it was fine, but of course, when it comes time to actually broadcast, it can be a little spotty. Can you guys hear us okay? Do we have to speak up? What's the issue?
We can.
We'll just go.
Yeah, we'll keep going. If you can't hear us for whatever reason, just drop us a line. Whether we're quiet, just give us some details about what you are or aren't hearing, and we'll try to fix it on the fly.
Awesome. Okay, so I love technical issues. They really get the heart pumping.
Oh yeah,
and the blood flowing. That's because this is my one job, and if I screw it up, okay. So with that said, we're gonna keep going here. I have a 10-gallon tank, and my neon tetras are chasing each other and fight my Bolivian rams. My Bolivian rams are also chasing each other. Do you know why? I'm from Australia, by the way.
10-gallon tank. So Bolivian rams, if you have a pair of males, let's say, you could get just a little bit of territorial aggression in a smaller aquarium, like a 10-gallon. They may just not be happy with their close quarters. If it's male and female, if the female's not ready to breed or doesn't want to breed or doesn't like that male, he could just be chasing her all around, trying to, entice her or because he wants to be close to her and she wants nothing to do with him. Neons do pick on each other. If they're in smaller groups, it can happen. Usually the more you have in there, the more dispersed any kind of aggression between smaller schooling fish can be. They usually have some kind of a pecking order, so to speak, where you're going to have dominant fish in the group and less dominant fish. But, I mean, they're usually relatively peaceful. What I would try to do, depending on how packed your tank is and if your filtration can handle it, is just add a few more neons to the group and try to beef it up a little bit, and that may help with a bit of the aggression.
Fair enough. We're gonna take 1 second out. My neighbor from down the street, Alex, he's watching. He was really excited for this. He missed our last one, and he finally made it for this. So I just want to give you a shout out, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Alex.
And I'll probably see you around the neighborhood tomorrow. But it's good to have you here tonight. Okay, let's see. Next one is, what's a good starter coral besides green star polyp?
There are so many. There are actually a ton. Zoanthids are great starter corals. They're pretty hardy. They grow very quick if they're in a happy little spot. You can also do toadstool leathers, simularia, Nephthia species can be pretty easy. I'm not talking about like carnation corals, but just like the colt coral style Nephtheas and stuff. All of those are very easy to start with. Soft corals in general are pretty easy. If you want to try what I would consider an easy hard coral, like an LPS, I would say give a frog spawn a try. They're usually pretty forgiving. But yeah, lots of corals in the soft coral range are going to be super easy for you to start with. I definitely recommend leather corals of just about any type, and I definitely recommend zoanthids. And mushrooms obviously can be really easy. Rickordias can be a little touchy, but most mushrooms, Discosoma species, are crazy easy. So give those a shot.
Cool. Next up, which pump is good for canister filter?
Okay, so I'm going to assume you mean like a pond-style canister that doesn't already have its own pump. If not, just correct me in the comments there, and I'll try to be more accurate. But my favorite type of utility pump that I use that's been super reliable for me, if you're just looking for a straight shot utility pump, is the Anaheim utility pumps. They're really good pumps, and they last a long time. They're very easy to get parts for. A close runner-up would be Mag Drive pumps by Danner. Or if you want to get a little fancy, the DC flow pumps, E-Flux DC flow pumps from Current USA are absolutely awesome, and you can control the flow, which is stellar. So you can tune it in, and yeah, that's what I would suggest in terms of pumps for like that situation. If it's a pond though, and it is a pond canister, a debris handling pump from Tetra is going to be a better bet.
Cool. Next up is, what are some good low-tech mid-ground aquarium plants?
The funny thing is, like stem plants and stuff, you can use mid-ground. So I would say like Ludwigia is a pretty good mid-ground plant if you keep it trimmed nice and short. I'm going to mess these names up. Styrogene's Repens is a pretty good mid-ground and foreground plant. You can kind of transition it. I even like using valves in the mid-ground and just letting them kind of float up to the top of the tank and create a wispiness between you and your background plants. Even though they're going to grow tall, the cool thing is that they'll kind of give you just a little bit of a visual barrier. You can still see through them. Crypts are great mid-ground plant, foreground to mid-ground plant, and various Anubias species that grow tall will be awesome as mid-ground plants.
Awesome. Next is, any advice on treating bloat? Do I have to set up a quarantine tank?
Quarantine is always a good idea if you're facing any kind of fish ailment. Bloat, depending on the fish, it can be caused by various things, but I'm going to be honest, without knowing more specifically about the situation and more what's going on in the aquarium and all that, to try to give you a solid answer you can work with just on the fly like this without getting a lot more information is kind of difficult. So what I would suggest, Brian's going to drop a link to our technical staff, and send us an email because we really want to help you with that. Absolutely. Just send us an email. They're going to just tell them what you're facing, give them all the parameters of your tank, what's currently going on in the tank between temperature, everything. And we're going to get you all hooked up.
Just drop that link in the chat there, support@biglspets.com. Yeah, give them all the information you can. If you want to send photos or anything like that.
That would even help more.
Yeah, it helps them a lot to actually see what's going on. So I dropped that email address there. Make sure to check that out. They'll help you immediately.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to go? Next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Toss another one out.
Awesome. So, do you have any experience with any red-tailed catfish?
Yes, I love them. I actually love lots and lots of large catfish, ripsaw cats and all kinds of stuff. I love red-tailed cats. They get far too large for most aquariums. I've only kept them up until about 24 inches, at which point I had to rehome to somebody with a gigantic tank because those suckers get huge. And they're basically a mouth with a tail. Love them. They're great.
Cool. Hey, Thomas, I was wondering what would be the best filter for a 55-gallon with 38 fish?
What kind of fish? I would say a canister. Just in general, anytime I go kind of above the 40-gallon mark, when I hit 40 and start going north of that, I always kind of just flip over to a canister filter. My favorites, all-time favorite canister filter is an Anaheim Classic. For a 55, I would say a 2215, or if you're stocking larger fish, 38 big fish, I would say the 2217, and it'll do a great job. Their flow is not as high as some other models or brands, but Anaheim tunes the flow of their canister to support the biological part of their media, so it doesn't get run with oxygen or overrun with oxygen, kind of so that it works as efficiently as possible. So yes, Anaheim 2217 would be my truest answer, but the Pro 3s are great. And you could even swing over to a Cobalt EXT canister. They're actually a lot of fun to use. You can put the pump in the tank, and you can have more than one of them because they're a little bit less expensive. You can use more than one and just switch out the canister body. Like always have one waiting and then switch it out. And then you can clean the other one later.
And I think for both the 2217 and for the Cobalt EXT, I think we did setup videos for both of those.
Both of those, yes.
Yeah, so if you decide on either of those, check out our channel. We have videos for both of those on how to set them up, and we've heard a lot of good feedback, especially on the 2217. People saying, thank you so much. The instructions were confusing, but you guys made it simple. So
they're terrible instructions.
Yeah, it's notorious from what I've...
But yeah, if you're going to set one up, check that video out. It'll help big time.
And that's from Turtle Mega. Turtle Mega, just so you know, we just finished shooting a video, a special video for when we hit 50,000 subscribers, which should be any day. We're like...
That was one of the most fun videos we've ever shot.
Yeah, we're a couple hundred away from 50K, and we're really excited. So we shot a video, and we had asked you guys to send in your photos. Turtle Mega, you make it in there, so be sure to check that out. And thanks for joining us tonight and asking the question. Okay, next one. What should I stock my 55-gallon with?
That is such a tough question. You know, the funny thing is we get questions like that all the time. What should I put in my tank? My truest answer is whatever inspires you. There are a staggering number of fish you could put in a 55. And depending on how you set it up, you could do an African cichlid tank. 55 gallons is a bit small, but there's lots of species of Africans that stay smaller. If that's your jam, go with Africans. If you're more of schooling fish, go with a bunch of small tetra species. You could do small barb species. You could do live bears if you want to see fish breed and not have to try very hard and just watch them like go ham and enjoy the whole kind of full cycle experience. Then I would say go with live bears. They also have a ton of color, which is cool. If you want a predator tank, you could do piranhas if you really wanted to. I mean, 55 is probably a little small for a ton of piranhas, but you could get a few in there for sure. You could do wolffish in a 55. There are some cool smaller species of wolffish. If you like ancient-looking fish, you could go with Polypterus, or also called Bishirs or Bitchers, depending on how you want to say it. So, yeah, you got tons of options. So kind of just go out and see what catches your eye. Write down all the names of the fish that you end up liking when you go out and look at these fish, and kind of use that as a starting point to do some research and figure out what kind of tank you want to do. Where did these fish come from? Maybe there's a bunch of fish on that list that you make that are compatible and you'd like to see them live together. That's how you do it. Or you can just walk through the store and be like, that's pretty, which is the very first aquarium I ever set up. That's pretty much what I did. So yeah, man, whatever inspires you, that's what you should do. Just go and have a look and enjoy it. The process is so much fun. Like, I would hate to say do this and that's all you do, because finding the fish and figuring out what you like is one of the most fun parts of this hobby.
We have a ton of questions. I'm scrolling through going, oh my, It's gonna be crazy. So
I'll try to be more concise.
No, yeah, no, that's fine. You do you, Boo Boo. You do you. I'm just saying we have a ton of questions. Thank you guys so much. We're really excited to get to them.
I'm so glad you guys are here.
If you ask something, it may take a little bit to get to your question, but we're gonna do our best to motor through this.
Okay.
Okay. So next one. Is it okay for the roots of a bulbitus to grow in a sand substrate? Oh, it sounds good now. That's good, Randy. Is it good? How do you pronounce that? Bulbitus?
Bulbitus? I don't know.
Bulbitus? I don't. Is it good for the roots to grow in a sand substrate?
I'm gonna be totally honest. Haven't kept it. Don't really know. Don't want to give you the wrong answer. But what I will say is that for many plants with thinner roots, I don't know what the roots of that plant are like. They will have a hard time rooting through actual sand because sand tends to compact very, very tightly, especially underwater. So it can make rooting for many plants more difficult. If it's a plant with big, robust roots, like a mangrove, for instance, they will have no issue rooting just because the plant can do it. But keep in mind, whenever you're working with actual sand, it is heavy, it sits tight, and it's compact, and anything with delicate roots may have a harder time actually rooting. I'm sorry, I couldn't be more specific.
Next up, can you tell me why it's better to have a fish tank inside than outside?
Of your house?
Yeah, do you mean, I guess you mean of the house. This is from Russ. Russ Newcomb.
Okay, I'll say this. I have seen a fish tank that somebody actually set up on their porch. I think it was an enclosed porch. It may or may not have been. The reason a fish tank outside is essentially a pond, but the reason you really wouldn't want to keep your aquarium outside is because now you're battling not only the elements like rain getting all over your equipment that is not meant to get wet on the outside necessarily, and plugs and such, but you're also battling things like any critters that live outside in your area, raccoons, you name it, that could be an issue. And you're also battling like massive swings in temperature. So for instance, where we live here in Nova Scotia right now, it'll get close to 30 during the day and then at night drop down to 13. So for an aquarium, that would be a massive issue, especially if you're dealing with tropical fish that don't want a big swing in temperature like that. That could be pretty awful. But other than that, that's really, like, you could do it. I mean, I can't remember what country it was. It was probably an Asian country or possibly South American. But there was a country where a guy built a fence around his house that was just a gigantic aquarium. So it's not that people don't do it or can't do it.
Russ followed up here. He says, where is he? My mom said I couldn't have tanks inside. Can you tell me why that's a bad idea? Sounds like she just might not want you to have an aquarium. I don't know.
Okay, so this changes everything.
Yeah.
Here's what most people worry about when it comes to tanks. Most people are probably going to worry about maybe water getting places it shouldn't go and ruining floors or your walls or whatever. Some people worry about power consumption of the aquarium and what it's going to cost on your power bill. And other people are just worried that an aquarium's not going to get properly looked after and maybe get really, really ugly over time. But my thing is, these days, aquariums are actually built very, very well, and provided you level them correctly, they're very unlikely to cause any kind of water damage, right? It's just not likely to happen. If you spill water, as long as you have towels by the tank like I do, you can clean it up real quick. As far as power goes, everything these days is low power consumption. Filters are low power consumption. Lights are now LED. So there's not a lot of power draw, especially on a small tank like a 10 or a 20 gallon. And hey, if it interests you and you really want to get hands-on with a pet and take care of it and do your thing, then that's just a battle you're gonna have to fight with your parents and let them know that you're serious about it. And sometimes it takes showing them an action plan. Write down all the things that it takes to keep an aquarium, all the things you're gonna have to do, how much time you think it's gonna take you in a week, and pitch it to them. That's what I used to do, and it actually worked really well for me. I literally had a board of paper, and I was like, all right, Mom, these are the things. And it worked. So
all the things you learn in school for these presentations, use it at home too. It works.
Use it with your parents.
All right, next up, can I put neon tetras and harlequin rasboras together in a 20-gallon tank?
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
Sweet.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have an issue.
Okay. Next, what was your biggest challenge with the mega build?
The floor.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, yeah, it had like that. It was like that incline or whatever.
I put 5 shims at one point. I tried to sneak a 6th under one end of the tank. The other end was touching the floor, and then the opposite end of the tank was like this far off the ground. So that was honestly the biggest challenge.
That was huge.
For many reasons. Yeah. I know in the video we made it really concise. Like it looks like that took all day one day, and then they had to come back and finish, but that doesn't include all the time it took me to clean up all the dust.
So if you go back and watch that video, like we have a time lapse with the GoPro up in the corner of the ceiling as he's doing that, and it's engulfed in dust. Like you lose him completely. And so it made a huge mess. They put up plastic, but it was still...
Oh, it got everywhere. Like everywhere. That was the hardest part. Leveling that tank was the hardest and way more costly than I could have expected.
Yeah.
I went into that not knowing that my floor was going to be that big of an issue. I mean, from this point forward, I kind of look at the floor now. We're going to stick something and plan ahead.
Yeah.
But that was a surprise to me. That was the toughest part. It was. Because we had to move the tank twice, too.
Yeah.
We moved the tank off of the spot, and I had to put it back. And that thing's heavy. 400 pounds for the glass, 200 pounds for the stand, basically.
But it was a lot of fun, though. Like the whole process, I really enjoyed it. Like, it made for good video making.
It did.
I enjoyed it from my end.
It was a lot of work, but it was a good experience.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, I noticed you put various substrates in your tank. Would this impact using cories in your tank because they prefer fine sand?
In a lot of cases, when I do keep fish that require sand, I will often mix sand and gravel. So the reason I do that is that I find if I use only sand, I'm more likely to get sand kicking up in places or compacting really hard. And when I mix it, I just find personally aesthetically when I mix gravel and sand together and have different courses of substrate, I'm kind of appealing to as many fish as possible at the same time, right? So fish that want to pick up rock and spit it out and stuff like large cichlids, or having bottom feeders that want something softer to sift through, they kind of find where they want to go, right? So the cory cats and stuff like that will often gravitate to where the sand is, and then the partition parts where the gravel are, sometimes the larger fish will hang out there. So I like mixing it. I've had really good results doing that. But if you're keeping a species-specific tank, let's say you're doing all cories, then there's no point in mixing it because you know that they're going to want to have free reign of that entire tank, and you're not really doing them any favors by mixing it. But I also don't think you're necessarily doing anything wrong by mixing it. So I kind of, depending on what I'm doing, I change things up. But and especially with community tanks and mixed tanks like that, I often will kind of vary the substrate.
Cool.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Sounded good to me. I have a question about electric blue acara fry. I have a mated pair and have a batch of eggs on slate in the tank. When should I remove the fry, and how is the best way to move them?
I have always found removing fry is easiest done with either a fine net, and you got to be delicate, or through siphoning, but it's got to be short distance and slow flow. Like you don't want to rocket them out of the tank. The other option is to move the parents. So it depends how you set it up. If you're doing kind of like a breeding operation and you intend to continuously do this, you can always have basically a couple identical tanks and you just remove the parents when it's time so that the fry cannot be moved, because the parents are going to take the physical moving probably better than the fry are going to. When to remove them, I honestly can't say. I would, based on similar species, probably remove them when they are free swimming. So not being carried around by a current necessarily, but actually swimming around on their own. As far as I'm aware, I think acaras are pretty decent parents. So I don't think you should have any issues with the parents messing with the babies. Research is always key, though. There's a lot of fish out there, and I have a hard time remembering everything with all of them. So I try to always give my best answer based on memory and experience.
But always
do a little bit of backup research. It's never going to hurt.
Yeah, asking multiple people, various sources, it's always good.
Yes.
Next up, and this one, I can tell you already, Well, okay, it depends. I'll let him answer. What do I know? What do I know? Is it really okay for people to flush down their pet fish?
No, never. Never flush anything down the toilet, ever.
What if it's dead? Because that's we were talking the other day about things that are just ubiquitous in society.
Yeah.
Things like when they portray a family with a fish, it's always a goldfish in a small bowl. When fish die, you have the little trumpet sound, and you drop in the toilet.
Yeah.
It's ubiquitous. But you're telling me never.
Don't flush fish. It's not good. You don't want that kind of stuff getting into places it shouldn't be in. You could be introducing things into waterways, depending on all it would take is a crappy broken pipe in your house and you living by a river and something getting into the water system that shouldn't be there. Like, it's just way safer to dispose of any unwanted organic matter from your aquariums or from your pets in general in a more responsible way. I know garbage bags doesn't always sound great, and green bin is probably not the right way to do it either. But I don't even suggest dumping your aquarium water down the toilet. Like when you do a water change, I mean, I think it's better to just put it into your garden. Like right into a closed flower bed or something. Is probably the best. Plants love fish waste. Love it.
Nice. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, use it for house plants. If you've got a really big tank, it's almost unavoidable sometimes, but...
Cool. Next up, mega pond build sometime soon. I saw a pond tab on Big L's website, and we do have that tab and tons of pond supplies. You have a gigantic piece of land now. Is a pond in your future?
You're not the first person to ask. Maybe. I don't want to say yes. I don't want to say no.
You know what? You just got to keep watching. You never know what surprises.
Yeah. I've always kind of wanted to just do like a little deck pond for the sake of keeping some goldfish or pool fish outside. But
a mega pond, maybe not, but maybe a mini pond.
We might do a pond series at some point.
All right, keep your eyes peeled. It's a good idea. We hadn't really thought about doing that on video, but that's actually not a bad idea at all.
But if I make a big pond, then I can get ducks.
Yes. You have your chickens. You need your ducks.
We'll see what happens.
You got them excited now. Okay, so next up. Sometimes okay, that's just, thank you for that. Would a canister be, oh, I lost it. Would a canister be overkill? Oh, dear Lord. Overkill for, oh, here we are. Would a canister be overkill on a 20-gallon tall? If not, could you recommend a brand and size, freshwater with guppies and shrimp?
Anaheim 2213 canister. If you're going to have guppies and shrimp, I would definitely recommend having a sponge guard over top of the intake with any canister. But again, I'm really partial to the Eheims because they are bulletproof and last forever. Somebody's going to disagree with that. Somebody will have had a bad experience with Eheim. And I totally understand it because everybody has a bad experience with some company at some point. And I've worked with enough of them to say that, yeah, anything can happen with any brand, but I've had the best success with Eheim filters. And again, they have lower flow. So the classic series anyways. So it'll be gentle for a 20-gallon. 2213 won't be overkill for a 20. But if you're worried about it and you want to have even lower flow, the 2211 will do a 20-gallon as well.
Coolio.
If you just want to have a canister.
Is it possible to have a 45-gallon or larger planted tank without fertilizers or CO2?
Yes. Next question. No, I'm just kidding.
Moving on.
Anubias, Java moss, Java fern. You can keep those plants low light, no fertilizer, just fish, and they will do okay.
No, that's okay.
That's it.
Sweet.
That's my actual, yeah. Those plants are great for that.
Is koi carp okay with refrigerator tank? I'm having 8 3-inch and 10 1-inch.
Refrigerator tank?
Refrigerator tank.
Like a chilled aquarium, you mean?
Let's assume yes.
Yeah. Although you don't have to like cool them, really, unless you live in a really hot climate, in which case you might want to. But koi, any carp species really that lives in a river system or lake system that gets cool and hot in the summer, vice versa, like you're not going to have an issue with them being in warmer temperatures other than they'll eat more and poop more. That's it. But I mean, you can keep goldfish warm and they just require a little bit more maintenance and they grow faster. So you don't have to refrigerate the aquarium, cool the aquarium, use a chiller. But they'll do fine. Just don't go too cold because then you'll end up putting them in this place where they basically stop eating. Yeah. So just
good. You don't want that.
So when you winterize koi, for instance, you switch them over from regular food when it starts to get cooler to wheat germ because their bodies process it a lot faster and it goes through them quicker. And that way, when they stop eating, because they've basically cooled down for the winter and they go into not a stasis necessarily or hibernation, but you want them to have an empty stomach if you're going to keep them really cold because otherwise the food won't digest properly and it can hurt them.
Okay. I got a 125-gallon African cichlid tank. It's in my basement. It gets hot down there. It was 84 degrees yesterday.
Wow.
Should I be concerned?
Huh. That's pretty warm. 80 is usually my limit for many fish, depending on the species, for tropical anyways. 84 for Africans. If you didn't see them getting stressed and your tank's usually, let's say, at 80 or 81, then up to 84 is not a massive jump and they probably will be fine. But if your tank is normally, let's say, at 76 or 78 and you're getting a jump up to 84, the drop in oxygen that comes along with hotter water like that, if it happens fast enough, you will probably find your fish gasping at the surface because the amount of oxygen in the tank has dropped significantly compared to when the temperature was lower, and that can cause stress. Any large jump in temperature that happens quickly can also send fish into shock depending on how fast it happens, which isn't great. But just read your fish. I mean, 84 is warm. I don't necessarily think you're going to lose fish from that, but it is warm. And like I said, depending on the starting temperature, you may find the drop in oxygen for the amount of fish you have in your tank could be problematic, which just means you got to either cool the water or you need to get a lot more surface agitation to make up for the loss of oxygen in the tank.
What can I do to skim the water of a 5-gallon betta tank as it needs a very slow flow and I'm using a hang-on filter?
You can use the Eheim, God, I keep saying Eheim. I like Eheim. Skim 350. You can actually turn the flow down on that. And it works really well to suck the surface scum. We actually did, I think there's a video on the Skim 350.
There's a video on it, and you can actually see the surface of the water. It's like we're looking straight down at the water in the top of the Skim 350, and you see like the oily patches going, like getting sucked right in and out of the water.
Yeah.
And I think do we show a before and after too? I think there's a before and after where you see the oily water, the clear. It worked really well.
It's a good little unit. It does a great job. It's pretty small and compact. Your other option is to stick a surface skimmer attachment to the intake of your filter, your hang-on filter, if it's compatible. Most of them require a round stem. So if you have a square stem or something like that, or your pump, your hang-on filter has the pump internal, it might not work. In which case, Skim 350 for sure.
Cool. What can I do if my fish are chasing each other?
Depends on your fish. Depends on what kind of fish they are. There's a few ways to tackle it. Either add more fish. If you can't add more fish, or you're at your limit basically. Then another good option is to use structures in the aquarium to create partitions or visual barriers. So what I mean by that is use tall plastic plants, use pieces of driftwood, use rock, whatever, to kind of create sections in the tank. Not that block them off entirely or anything, but just so when fish A is in one spot and fish B is in another, they can't see each other. That way, when they are chasing each other, all it takes is somebody to dive somewhere where the other guy can't see for the moment, and then that can disperse the aggression temporarily long enough to kind of let it settle.
I have to try that with my kids. It might work perfectly.
Just a pillow fort.
Yes.
One of you go in that pillow fort. Yep.
Just to get rid of the aggression for that moment, that's all right.
Yeah, option pulling your kids off of each other.
Yeah. Okay, I have a queue. I have guppies and an algae eater. I'm getting tetra and autocats. What test kits and conditioners and health things to pour in for a 10-gallon?
You definitely want, assuming you're using city water that has chlorine or chloramine in it, you definitely want to get a tap water conditioner. That's a staple that everybody should just have if you're using tap water that contains any of those things. It'll also help neutralize some heavy metals and other nasties that might be in there. As far as a test kit goes, get an all-in-one test strip or a complete test kit so you can test for the whole gamut of things. Having one on hand is good because if anything ever starts to go wrong or you're losing fish, you can immediately test the water and find out what might be out of whack. So what you want to test for really is ammonia, nitrate, and nitrite. The big one being probably ammonia. Once your tank's cycled, then the big one is nitrate. You probably won't see a lot of nitrite, but that's often included in a kit anyways. Then pH and hardness. Knowing where your pH and hardness are when you set up a tank, just naturally coming out of the tap, is a great way to know what fish are going to be most comfortable in your tank. So when you stock it, you've already got a pretty good idea of what's going to be happy. And then that's it. You can also get a bacterial additive for the tank that you can add periodically just to get the tank started and kind of boost the cycle, and then to make sure you've always got a surplus of beneficial bacteria.
I just want to update Russ, who said, the one who said his mom said that you shouldn't have aquariums inside. It sounds like she's trying to avoid him getting an aquarium. He said, I showed my parents the video, this video.
Uh-oh.
That's good.
Hi, Russ's parents.
Yeah, good to see you.
Give him a shot.
Yeah.
Russ sounds pretty gung-ho for it.
Yeah. Okay, next up, the giveaway, we're going to do it momentarily. We're going to motor through a couple more questions, then we'll get into this giveaway. So with that said, are you planning another mega build?
Yes.
Done. But keep watching. We're not going to tell you what it is. We're not going to tell you. But yes, we are, and it's going to be awesome. We hope.
Maybe more than one.
Maybe, well, just, yeah. Yes.
Maybe I just haven't decided. Who knows?
Stick around. Okay, cool. Next. Is an Anaheim Pro 4 Plus 600 too big for a 40-gallon breeder planted tank?
I'm going to say no, because I would put it on there. Realistically, no, it's not too big. It's a lot of filter for a planted tank. It's a lot of filter for a 40-gallon. But if you're going to heavily plant that tank, you will have plant waste on top of fish waste. And having a beefier filter can help mitigate that plant waste. You will probably want to attempt some CO2 injection because the amount of surface agitation you're going to get from a filter that beefy is probably going to push a lot of the CO2 you're trying to retain out of the water. So spray bar not pointed at the surface will probably be your friend. And just a little bit of CO2 injection won't hurt. Not necessarily needed, but just saying you might end up going down that road.
This next one, I already know it's kind of tough. It's subjective, and without any real ideas of what kind of aquarium you want, it's going to be hard to say. But I'll ask anyway.
Sure.
Which is the best canister filter?
Ehan.
We're not being paid by Ehan for this.
Okay, here's the thing.
We should be.
This is my very real opinion. My favorite canisters, are the Anaheim Classic series, up to a point. Then I like the Anaheim. Basically, once I start to go north of 40 gallons or north of 65 gallons, I guess, I switch over to the Anaheim Pro series. Once I get north of about 120 gallons, I'm a Fluval FX guy. The FX4 or the FX6 are phenomenal filters. I was super impressed with the one I had on the 265. So if you're going for a big tank or a really well-stocked tank, those are great options. And then the Cobalt EXT canisters are fantastic. Super, super user-friendly. Very easy to work with. The pump can go in the tank or outside of the tank, so that means you don't even have to prime them depending on how you set them up. And they're very cost-effective. But I would probably cap them at about 40 gallons and even probably suggest to stay under that. That's just my opinion. I'm pretty sure they're rated for a little bit more than that. But that's my opinion for sure.
Cool. I have a new tank as of July 22nd.
Congrats.
And yeah, awesome. And the ammonia is still high at 1 parts per million. What can I do?
What have you done so far?
That's a good question.
Are you doing a fishless cycle? Are you cycling with fish? Are you using any kind of bacterial additive? That's a tougher one to tackle.
I would say right off the bat, send an email to support@bigowlspets.com with some of the information, that background info about what you've already done, what kind of stuff you have, like your whole setup, and they could tackle that with a lot more information, and they can be a lot more accurate in their response.
There's a couple ways to jump on it real quick. You can use a nitrifying bacterial additive, something with live nitrifying bacteria.
Fishless cycle with bacteria and a 50% water change. Just so you know, she said that.
Awesome. Add more bacteria. And if you're doing a fishless cycle, it's a waiting game. So add more bacteria and also continue to add some kind of a food source just to make sure the ball keeps rolling so those bacteria don't run out of food or anything like that once you get them started and they're moving. Also, double check your test kit. Test your tap water. So that'll do two things. If you get 0 on the ammonia for your test kit for your tap water, you know the test kit's working and you also know your tap water has nothing in it. If you test it and you're still showing something on tap water, either your tap water has a problem or the test kit has a problem, and you could take your tap water sample somewhere else to get it tested to make sure that it's just the kit and not your tap water throwing extra ammonia into your tank for you, which, believe it or not, has happened.
We're going to get to the giveaway. I promise we're going to get there. I just want to get a couple more. We have a long list of questions. We want to get as many as we can. We will get to this giveaway momentarily. What substrate to get for a pleco?
Depends on the pleco, really. Most plecos aren't going to care too much. Yeah, what kind of pleco? Just a common pleco? You could pretty much use whatever substrate you want for a common pleco. Just regular gravel works just fine.
Cool. Next up, are lily pads low or high tech?
Lily, like true lilies? I'm going to say high tech on the lighting end, low tech on the CO2 end. Because if it's a true lily pad and it's at the surface, the leaf of the plant is actually going to be taking most of its CO2 from your room. So it won't require a lot of the high tech stuff. They also probably won't even need they do like higher lighting, but they probably won't need as much lighting because they're going to be right at the surface underneath your aquarium light, so they don't have to deal with the water penetration. I've never seen a true lily in an aquarium. I've only seen them in ponds. However, a very close approximate would be like a lotus bulb. Lotus bulbs do great, even in a low-tech setup, because the plant can just send the leaf straight to the surface, and then they no longer require your efforts of putting CO2 in the water or highlighting to penetrate all of that water in order to thrive. And you can usually even find them with their pads already all spread out. So, yeah.
Cool. We'll throw in one or two more. This one we'll keep it super short because I'm sure it is super short, but someone wants to know, how are the chickens doing?
Chickens are awesome. They're getting bigger. I have way too many roosters.
You were hoping for...
I wanted mostly hens. Yeah, but it happens. But I'll tell you, I even find the roosters really cute. They're loud all the time. And they're so far they're very friendly. Like nobody's gone rooster, because apparently they can get pretty nasty sometimes.
Every now and then I see one charging in my direction. I get a little nervous.
They think you got food. They always think we have food. If we walk to the car from the front door, they chase us because they think we have food. They're hungry buggers.
Cool. All right. You know what? I'm going to jump into the giveaway now.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know how long it'll take to get the
no
right
worries.
response.
Let's do this.
So guys, it's just a little bit of trivia. Fairly simple question. We'll see. Maybe you'll get it right off the bat. Maybe you won't. But let me just paste it. I'll paste it and I will say it. So for a $50 e-gift card to bigowlspets.com or .ca, all fish share 2 traits. All of them share just 2. What are the traits? First answer that gets it right, first answer we see, we'll end up messaging you and arrange all of that. So first person to get it right gets the gift card. So all fish. I got confusing. All fish.
Only 2 fish.
Fins and gills. Live in water have gills. Fins and tails. No, I'm still not seeing it. No. Eating and pooping. No. I mean, well, spine, gills, fins. Hey, oh, no. Oh, that was so close. Like this, would you say that counts?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that one's close.
There's everything's super close.
That's really close.
Well, no, because the other one was, it wasn't a...
Yeah. Oh, man. This is great. I know right now, if anybody watching us stare at a screen, it's probably not very interesting.
Yeah, sorry guys, we have to keep a close eye on this. I haven't seen the right match. There's two things. I've seen a lot of, I've seen a lot of right answers separately, but not the same.
I'm late. That's okay, William. We'll take it even if you're late.
No sweat. Now we got this. This is straight off National Geographic. Just so you're aware.
We didn't make this up. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is trivia that is backed by National Geographic.
I'm not seeing it.
That's almost the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, we have an opposite there. We're so close, guys.
Oh.
You guys, you almost got it. It's same thing when I asked you. I think you start to overthink.
Yeah, overthinking it is the hardest part. They were very, very straightforward things. Very straightforward. And a lot of people have had half of a right answer. Lots of people had half of a right answer.
Yeah, you're so close. Like, a couple of them were like, it's borderline right, but not quite. Well, again, super close.
That's one thing, technically.
Yeah.
Oh!
Alston Sabanayagam.
Congrats, you are...
Live in water and have a backbone.
You got it.
Alston Sabanayagam.
You are awesome.
Yeah, you nailed it. Let me, oh shoot, you're escaping. Let me get you. Copy that, and I'm gonna message you later. Okay, so we have a winner.
Congrats.
All fish live in water and have a backbone. Apart from that, I mean, they
differ greatly.
They vary widely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different kinds of fish that are the same, but because there's so many of there, those are the only two traits that all fish species.
They have even so far found a fish. There's actually, I think, a couple fish species, but very one specifically I can think of, that is able to regulate its own body temperature, which is really weird because fish have always been thought to be cold-blooded or endothermic. Exothermic. I'm not good with the science words.
Cool. All right. No problem, Alston. That's awesome. So I'm going to be contacting you. Maybe not right now because we're going to finish this Q&A, but I will get back to you and figure out how to use this gift card.
That was awesome.
So thank you, everyone. That was great. But we're going to get back to all your questions now.
Lots of solid answers.
Yeah, really good. I mean, again, everything was super close. It was just we had to have that exact combination. Again, that's based on National Geographic. Let me actually just for fun, let me paste in the actual National Geographic.
The excerpt.
Yes, this is what they say on their website about fish. Oh, it's too... Okay, well, I won't put in that. Okay.
Haha.
There we go. So...
All right, what's next, Brian? What
next up is... good tank mates for rosaline sharks. Minimum tank size and how many in the school?
Good tank mates for rosaline sharks?
Yes, good tank mates for rosaline sharks. Minimum tank size and how many in the school?
Rosalines are pretty forgiving, so I think those are just Bosemani barbs, torpedo barbs, rosaline sharks, all the same thing. You could do any number of tetras. I like black neons personally. You could also do cherry barbs. You could do, and as far as the school goes, you could go as big as